readers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire Books, and I just wanted to do a quick video today talking about reading a lot, why you might want to do that, and how you can read more. So, I have bad months where I don't read very much at all either, but typically in a month I will read somewhere between 8 and 15 books. And there are people who read a whole lot more books than me, but I'm pretty happy with where I'm at in my reading pace. And I've had people ask me, how do you read so much? How do you do it? And so I am going to tell you. But I'm also going to tell you that you shouldn't put pressure on yourself to read as much as anyone, because I think reading more to a point where you feel happy with how much you're reading is actually the point. There is no number that's going to be correct except the number that is right for you. That said, okay, how do you read more? I think the first thing that you can do is just give yourself easy access to books. And that is easier than ever with libraries and also the free ebook apps that they provide. So I'm a big fan of Hoopla, I have Libby, and I think that you should just check with your local library, see what apps they offer, get them on your phone immediately, and then every time you would be scrolling Facebook or Twitter or other social media, I would recommend looking at a book instead. And by carrying them everywhere, getting them for free, you're basically just increasing your access. And I think that there's a lot to that. If you like to read a lot of smutty fantasy series, then I think Kindle Unlimited is also a great option, but that's like a personal choice. You can also make sure that you always have a book in your bag or a book near you. Basically, I think that having something in your sight, something that's in range of you, makes it easier to pick it up. So make books part of your physical and digital life, and I promise you'll end up reading more because you'll just have more access and it'll seem like a more natural thing to do. To add on to that, I also recommend audiobooks. I definitely personally consider audiobooks to be reading, and I read probably a couple audiobooks every month, just commuting back and forth to work, and I really recommend it. If you like podcasts at all, I basically decided to replace the podcast that I was listening to with an audiobook, and voila, I was getting tons of interesting information and having a great time. I tend to prefer nonfiction audiobooks. And it felt kind of like a podcast, but I was like getting entire books in over the course of a week or two. I don't listen to my audiobooks very fast, although I know some people like to speed it up and run through them more quickly. But, in terms of access, putting audiobooks in your own way is also a really good way to read more because you just have more opportunity. Another way that I actually encourage myself to read more is I just went on the internet and found other people who talk about books a lot. That's actually why I have this BookTube channel. I started using BookTok, TikTok, all the book people on there, because I love watching other people be excited about books, and I like to see other people's book recommendations because it gives me ideas for what I want to read. And surrounding yourself with other people who are into the same thing, I think is motivating. And so for me, being part of online book culture, even though reading is really mostly a solitary activity, helps me kind of stay in touch with the book world, find things to be excited about, and feed off of other people's excitement, which then in turn leads to me reading more. And so I certainly recommend that. Join Goodreads. Look at Storygraph, which I think is a competitor to that's coming up. Watch BookTube. Make sure you like any book talk videos that come across your For You page on TikTok. And before you know it, you will be finding other readers whose tastes match yours, and you'll be getting tons of ideas. And it's awesome. So we've covered issues of having better access and kind of feeding off of the excitement of others. But the back half of this video is really more about you and why you want to read more. Because I think that if you're going to succeed at reading more books and also getting more pleasure out of your reading life, you have to really think about that. I personally read because I have escapist tendencies, I'm super curious, and, reading is a way for me to have access to lots of information and also have kind of a lot of thinky time to myself where I'm in my own head, but with input from other people. And I personally really enjoy that. So for me, reading is a pleasure thing. And I actually think that for you to read more, it needs to be something that you enjoy. So my first recommendation here in this section about, kind of examining yourself and pushing yourself to read more is you should read things that you're actually interested in. You should not be expecting to go read, Great Expectations and War and Peace because you feel like you'd be smarter if you read those things. I don't really think that feeling like there's a list of things you have to read is a very good idea if you want to actually read more and get something out of the experience. Instead, you should read things that actually interest you. If you just want to read romance novels all day long forever, guess what? Those are awesome. I read romance novels, and I think that that's what you should read if that's what you like to read. If you want to read horror or any other kind of genre fiction and that's what you dig, I think that you should read it and that you should not feel under any obligation to, make yourself read the classics or make yourself learn how to read Shakespeare or, push yourself in ways that don't make sense for you. Because really your reading journey is about you and about fulfillment for you. So if you're doing things that make you feel unfulfilled in your reading life because you think that other people will see that you did it and feel more impressed with you, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're not going to stick with it because you're not going to enjoy it. That, and frankly, there's really no reason to be snobby about what you read. I mean, reading is an inherent good, so go do it. Read what you want. I think tied to this is the idea of if you want to be more of a reader, you need to think about how you're doing that. So if you have been reading a lot and you feel burnt out, I actually think that the best thing to do is go do something else. You should not force activities that don't feel good. Because if you're pushing yourself to read when you hate it, think about stuff that your teachers made you read in school that you didn't like. How did that make you feel about reading, about that book in particular, about maybe that genre in particular? It probably made you feel pretty bad. So don't force things that really, really, really aren't there. And I don't mean that I never feel like exercising, but I know I should. I just make myself go for 5 minutes and, if I get motivation through action, I keep going. And if I'm really, really not feeling it, I let myself quit. And you should do the same thing for yourself for reading, especially if reading is not inherently pleasurable for you just yet. And I think kind of paired with that as well is just do a little bit at a time. You don't have to become a person who marathon reads and, reads a book a day, reads 2 books a day, can read for hours on end and tune the whole world out. If that's not you, guess what? That's not you, and that's okay. Just read for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And guess what? If you get hooked on the book, you're just going to keep going. It's going to naturally happen for you. And if you're not getting hooked, then maybe just 10 minutes is enough for that day. Or if that's consistently happening and you're just not really into the book, just DNF it. Get another book, which goes right back to reading what you like and what makes you happy. I think we like to think of literature as this thing that's outside of us that's really beautiful and important, and it is that. But at the same time, the books that you're bringing into your life, they exist to please and to edify and to entertain you and not actually the other way around. So make sure that the reading habits that you're developing and the books that you're bringing into your life are serving you instead of you doing something that you feel like you have to do. Because reading is really about your own personal journey, your own happiness, and, making the most out of our lives and the way that we think about it. So if you want to read more, those are actually the recommendations I have for you. So broadly, make reading more accessible and read things that you actually like. I hope this helps. If you have any tips for reading more, I'm more than happy to hear them in the comments. Do like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this, and happy reading.